Listen into the terminal count and watch as Falcon 9 takes our Starlink satellites to orbit.
Let's get it on. Corey Clark says, here we go. Exciting. This never gets old.
15 seconds.
Stage 1, present for flight.
10,
Bob wins. You
9,
just made it in time,
8,
brother.
7,
Perfect.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition.
1,000,000 pounds of kerosene. 1 million.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
Thanks for sharing, Tom. You got it, Cody. Thanks for joining, my brother. He's screaming.
Stage 1, propulsion nominal.
Jay Oliver
What a
says, let's
beautiful day for
go.
a rocket launch here. As you can see, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Pad 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, carrying our stack of 60 Starlink satellites to orbit. Moments ago, we throttled the engines
bringing
down
up Starlink.
in preparation for max Q, or the maximum aerodynamic pressure that the rocket will
Vehicle
see.
supersonic.
Right, Cody Rage? I want to
Vehicle
rock
is
it.
supersonic, and we should be passing through max Q here in just a few seconds.
Missy Ann says, so
Vehicle's
amazing.
reached maximum
Yes,
aerodynamic
indeed.
pressure.
We just passed through max Q, and in about a minute, we will have 3 events happening back to back, and that's main engine cutoff, or MECO, stage separation, and second engine start 1. So first, main engine cutoff. That is where all 9 Merlin 1D engines that you can see burning right now will shut off to slow the vehicle down in preparation for stage separation. And this is where the first stage separates from the second
Game
stage.
control has begun.
With the first stage
Aw,
making
thank
its way
you,
back to
DT3.
land on our drone ship. Just read the instructions.
Yeah, it's a
while
great
second
app.
stage continues on
Competitor
its
of
journey
PayPal.
to its
No
third
worries,
event,
man.
which is second engine
Always
startup
good to have
1.
your company.
Now this is where the 1 MVAC engine on our second stage lights up and propels that second stage along with our Starlink satellites to orbit. What a beautiful view of those 9 M1D engines burning there on beautiful clear day. And we're coming up on main engine cutoff shortly here in just about 10 seconds.
Look at that vapor trail. And there's 3 engines in that sucker. And when it lands, they cut down to 1.
MECO.
But it's just so sick. That's not one of the transport vessels which flips in the air.
And recognition.
Stand by.
You can see in that beautiful footage that we did just have MECO, stage separation, and second engine startup 1. Those grid fins
There's
are coming
one of those
out on the
engines right
first
there.
stage there on the left. And in just a few seconds, we should have our fairing deploy.
Yo, watch
You heard the
this.
call out, and you can see
When they
on
deploy,
your video
it's
there
sick.
that we have had successful fairing deploy. And again, today's flight marks the 40th time that SpaceX has reflown a Falcon fairing half since November of 2019. Now, this is also our first 5th reflight for one of our fairing halves and a 3rd for the other half. In order to recover these fairing halves for future flights, we will be attempting to recover them again with the help of our recovery vessels, Go Searcher and Go Navigator.
Oh, DT3. 259. Thank you.
Stage 2 continuing towards its first orbit on the right-hand side of your screen. Left-hand side of your screen, you can see Falcon 9's first stage reorienting itself for its next 2 activities. That'll be 2 burns to come back safely to Earth. First of those
Acquisition of
being
signal,
the
Bermuda.
entry burn. That's where we'll ignite 3 of the Merlin 1D engines to help slow down the first stage as it re-enters the upper parts of the Earth's atmosphere. The second burn will happen closer to the drone ship. That's the landing burn. That's where we'll ignite just the single center Merlin engine. That'll bring the first stage's velocity rapidly down to 0 for a soft touchdown. On the right-hand side of your screen, second stage continuing to burn nominally, acceleration right down the middle. And you can see the glow of the nozzle there. Now, if you are just catching up with us, we did have
Stage 2 on nominal trajectory.
We did have a successful launch of Falcon 9 from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. And first stage on the left-hand side of your screen is headed back to our drone ship named Just Read the Instructions, stationed out in the Atlantic Ocean. Second stage heading on the right-hand side of your screen is
Echo,
headed to its
Echo,
first
Cloud
orbit.
9. We have a
As a
successful
reminder,
launch.
today's
Awaiting
mission does
deployment
mark the second flight
of
for
Starlinks
this booster.
via
If you
orbit.
happen to catch fairing separation earlier,
All
this will
right,
be
so
the
it's
first
heading out
fifth
to the
flight for one
Atlantic.
of those fairing halves and the third flight for the other half. Reusability is critical to what we do here at SpaceX.
When it hits that little
Allows us to
dot,
help-
you're going to see
allows
the
us
next
to refly
phase.
the most expensive parts of the rocket.
Sorry, I
that
was just saying,
drives
when you
down the
see
cost.
it hits that next dot, probably about another minute, you'll see
You
the
can
next
see the grid
phase.
fins extended on the left-hand side of your screen. Every so often, you'll see puffs of white gas. That's attitude control coming from the first stage to help reorient us to get the 9 Merlins on Falcon 9 pointed towards the Earth. Those Merlin engines are optimized for thrust at sea level. They help Falcon 9 achieve about 190,000 pounds of thrust during ascent and descent. Meanwhile, the Merlin vacuum is optimized for space. That's why it has that larger nozzle. Now, coming up here is entry burn. Keep an eye out on the left-hand side of your screen.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Stage 1 FTS is safe.
This burn expected to last about 20 seconds.
Stage 1 entry
No
burn
kidding,
shutdown.
Tammy. That's really cool.
And successful shutdown of
You
those
have the
3 Merlin
dimensions
engines.
and weights
Now,
of
if you
all
followed
of the
along our
early
missions
ones.
in the past,
Sputnik,
you'll know
Apollo.
that soot
Stage
on
2
the first
continues on
stage
nominal trajectory.
is an indication that the rocket has flown before. That's
Artisai,
because we
it
use
actually,
rocket-grade
many times,
kerosene,
they'll
or RP1
land,
as our
oops, sorry,
fuel in Falcon
they'll
9. It's a
land on a
carbon-based propellant.
barge that's
As we
in
burn
the
it, it
ocean,
generates soot.
and using
So with the
gyroscopes and
engines
everything
down,
else,
as we're
just a
coming in
perfect
through the Earth's
touchdown each
atmosphere,
time.
the soot
It's
from
ridiculous,
the
by the way.
plume comes back up on the first stage and deposits it along the surface of the vehicle. Now, if we didn't do that entry burn, the first stage would come in very quickly in the atmosphere, and the aerodynamic forces could
Stage
cause
1
it to
is
rip apart.
transonic.
So that's why we do that entry burn. And we did temporarily lose the video feed, but we'll hopefully, there we go. Beautiful view. Now, at this point, since we're in the Earth's atmosphere, those grid fins will take over orientation and trajectory back towards the drone ship. Now, coming up, stage 1 landing burn will begin. Shortly after landing
Terminal
burn
guidance.
ends,
Landing burn startup.
the second stage's engine will shut down. We should be in our expected orbit there. So keep an eye out, see if we can get a video feedback for the first stage.
That
Stage 1
that
landing
equates
flag
to
deployed.
8,700 miles per hour.
Fantastic, right down the middle. That's our 85th successful
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Look at that.
100th, 18th successful launch of the
Stage 2
Falcon 9.
FTS is safe.
Now keep an ear out here for second engine cutoff number 1 on the second stage. And with that, navigation officer. We did
Touchdown.
hear the call out there for Seco. Navigation officer.
Yeah,
will
Mr.
be
Sec
checking
landing on the
signal.
barge is
the
the best,
parameters.
absolutely.
Make sure we are in our intended orbit.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Fantastic news. So from here, we do have a coast phase followed up by the second burn of our second stage engine. These additional burns allow us to modify the orbits of the payload more efficiently.
Oh,
than if we
really,
were to
Mr.
launch
Hillard?
directly
He says
into our
not right
final
into
orbit.
the ocean.
That's just one of those
It will
quirks of
land
orbital
on a
mechanics.
drone ship.
And today, our second stage
It's
will
amazing,
coast for
absolutely.
35 minutes until we reach apogee, which is the highest point of the orbit. Views here on your screen.
Right,
of,
Jay Oliver? Jay
the
brings up a valid point.
fairing
He
and then
says,
the
why
Merlin
can't
vacuum engine on the
China
second stage.
do
So
that
once we
instead
reach
of
the highest point
scaring
of
the
the
world
orbit,
with their rockets?
we will reignite the second stage for a short burn. And you can follow along the progress of the second stage with this animation showing where we are around the Earth. We'll be back here at T plus 44 minutes and 30 seconds for second engine start number 2. See you soon.
Darn right, Karen Bullseye. That thing has more gyroscopes and GPS precision navigators on it than anything. But what's incredible is how the transport one that they have, it kind of looks like for lack of better words, like a giant dildo. And the thing goes up straight, it then goes horizontal, and it's got little flaps on the side. It'll cruise on down and then go up
a space operations
land flat.
engineer. Now the Falcon 9 on your screen, that's our two-stage
And those are the
liquid-fueled
ones
rocket.
that
Been loading
Elon
propellant
states,
since T-35
can bring
minutes.
the average
Falcon
Joe
9
up into
stands
space.
229 feet tall. That's slightly taller than a 21-story building.
Because
much
it'll be
different
so
from
cost
our recent
efficient and
Starlink
cheap,
missions, which launched and landed boosters
that
for an
anybody
8th,
can do it.
9th, and even a record-breaking
In
10th
theory.
time. The booster that we're flying today is fairly new, having only supported the Sentinel 6A mission last year. Now, the bottom 2/3 of the vehicle is the first stage. You can see some of the soot left over from its previous flight. The first stage accelerates the vehicle through the Earth's atmosphere into space with the help of 9 Merlin engines that it has at its base. Now, as I mentioned,
That's
we will be attempting to recover this first stage for the second time on our drone ship named Just Read the Instructions.
Oh, okay. We got 10 minutes until it
On
touches
top
down.
of the
Did
first
it land
stage,
already, guys?
We have our black carbon fiber inner stage, and on top of that is Falcon 9's second stage, which has a single Merlin
83.
vacuum
It's pretty
or
impressive.
MVAC
I can't
engine.
even park my
Once the
car in
first and
space
second
without
stages
clipping a few
separate,
things.
about 2.5 minutes into the mission, the Merlin vacuum engine will ignite and carry our 60 Starlink satellites into an elliptical orbit around planet Earth. Now, you'll also notice this large nose cone at the
Misty
top
says
of the
she's in
rocket.
awe.
That's
The
called a
brilliance
fairing. That's
of
where the
it
stack
is
of Starlink
simply
satellites is
amazing.
safely enclosed. The fairing's job is to protect those satellites from aerothermal heating, aerodynamic loads, and contamination during the ascent phase. Once we reach the vacuum of space, we'll jettison
All right,
those fairing
I think that's
halves
it.
as the second stage continues on its journey to orbit. The fairing halves protecting our Starlink payload have quite a history. This will be the first 5th flight for one of the halves before
Yeah,
today's launch.
Mr.
That
Sec,
half
yep, he
supported
says the
4
barge
previous
is
Starlink
even
missions
unmanned.
going back
Yep.
to 2019. The other fairing half will be flying for the 3rd time, previously having supported the Transporter 1 and Starlink 21 missions. Now, today's flight also marks the 40th time SpaceX has
Let me just
reflown
check the
fairing
interwebs,
halves
see if we got
since
anything
November
else beside that. I
2019.
think that's
And
it.
of course, we're going to be attempting to recover them today
Yeah, they're replaying the
using
countdown.
our recovery
Thank you,
vessels named Go Searcher and Go Navigator. Beautiful day at the Cape. Weather is forecast 90% favorable for liftoff, and the recovery conditions look quite good for the booster. So with that, the vehicle, satellites, weather, and range are all
There's
looking good for
currently
an
a
on-time
house
liftoff
holding a
just a
white
few minutes from now.
supremacy
Now, for
and
some reason, we do
militia
not launch today. We
extremism
do have a
here.
backup opportunity
goodness, is
available
that relevant.
tomorrow at 2:38 p.m. Eastern Time.
Now that you know a little about the structure of Falcon 9 and its engines, the propellant, which is a substance used to create the energy to make the rocket go. Falcon
Chris
9
Willard,
is a
that was very
bipropellant vehicle,
cool. Amen,
meaning it
brother.
uses 2 propellants, a fuel
So for
and
the
an
time being, I'm
oxidizer.
going to wrap this one
An
up. I just
oxidizer
saw
is a
that
type
that
of chemical
happened to be going
which a
on,
fuel requires
and
to
I
burn.
wanted to bring that to you
Most
guys
burning on Earth
and
uses
girls. It's
oxygen,
always a
which
pleasure
is
to be
prevalent
with
in
you.
the atmosphere.
And
However,
hopefully
in
tonight
space,
we'll have
there's
some
no
action.
atmosphere to provide
Last night
oxygen or
in
other
Portland,
oxidizers,
Oregon,
so rockets
I
need
believe
to carry
6 or
them up
7
on their
people
own.
were arrested.
For
One of them
Falcon
being
9, our
Jared
fuel
Hupp,
is a
who's being
refined
held
form of
on
kerosene known as
north
RP1, and our oxidizer is a
$250,000
superchilled liquid oxygen called LOX. The
non-negotiable
liquid
bail.
oxygen is chilled well below
So
its
there's
boiling
that.
point, so that it
There was a
becomes what we call
dumpster that was
densified,
lit
which
on
means there is a
fire,
much greater
and
amount
it was
of
a
mass
6-minute
or volume,
stream.
and we can
But
load
at 2
more of it
a.m., I
into
was
the
literally
booster.
ready to go
In
live
addition to its
to bring that to you
propellants,
guys, and
Falcon 9
it was
also needs
by
an
the
ignition source
JC,
in order to go.
by
And
the
for that,
Justice
we use the
Center
chemical
rather
T-tab,
than the
or
ICE facility.
triethylaluminum and
Thank you.
triethylborane.
It's currently
When it is fully fueled, Falcon 9 holds just over
$280,500
1
bail.
million pounds of propellant that the vehicle will burn through in less than 3 minutes after liftoff. Once our Merlin engines begin to burn RP-1 kerosene
Exactly,
and liquid oxygen,
James.
you'll
James
see the
says
rocket
if this
throwing
is
the
what they're
exhaust out of
willing
the
to
engine
show
valves
us,
in one
imagine the
direction while
technology
pushing the
they're
rocket
not.
in the other.
On point,
This is
brother.
a great example
Exactly.
of Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is an equal and opposite
Sharon,
reaction.
good to be with you.
That
Billy
million-pound
Monic
weight
here,
of
my
propellant
brother.
is turned into all the
Nate.
flames that you see in flight coming out of the engine.
Nate says, I thought today would be a great day to go skate, and then I went outside. It's 100 degrees. That's what I'm saying. I literally shut my windows.
Now, in order to get to space, the rocket has to do
Yeah.
more than just go up. It also has to go sideways really, really fast.
And it
At
shall start.
liftoff, gravity is pulling straight down on the rocket. But as we ascend, we'll start to
But
tilt the
I'll be on the
engines, which is
lookout.
technically
And
referred
should
to as
anything come
gimbaling.
across the
That turns
airwaves,
the rocket
I'll most certainly
horizontally.
bring it to you.
We're
As
still going
always,
up,
you
but we're
guys
also now
can
heading
message the page
horizontally
if you
away
happen
from
to
the
see
launch
any
pad, and
flyers
that maneuver is referred to as a gravity turn.
or streams.
The rocket typically needs to
as
get
well
to
as the
about
Discord.
7.5 kilometers per second, or about
And when a crew goes
17,500
or
miles an hour
returns to the
horizontally
space
in order
station,
to avoid being pulled back
the
down
capsule
to Earth
they're in
and to
is
get into
autonomous.
orbit.
Yup.
To help
The
demonstrate the
astronauts do
concept,
not
imagine
do
we were firing
anything,
a cannon
although they
from
can,
a really
if necessary.
high
Yup, do a manual
The
override.
cannonball will arc, and then
That is
gravity
just
will
so
pull it
cool.
back down to Earth. As you increase
So
the
cool.
power, the
Stage one,
cannonball
fuel
will
close
arc
out.
and land further and further away. Eventually, you could continue to increase the power, and the cannonball will go so fast that it ends up in free fall around the Earth. Gravity's still pulling on it, but it's going so fast
DT3,
that it
catch
never
you
hits
next
the ground.
time. Peace out,
This
my
arc
brother, and
that
thank you so
constantly
much for
misses
your
the Earth
support.
is what we call an orbit.
Always good to see
So,
you
when we
guys.
get to
Mr.
liftoff
Hiller,
today,
thank you
keep
for
an eye out
popping
on
in,
the
sir.
orientation of Falcon
Just the
9.
same to you
You'll
guys
see it
over on
initially start to
Facebook.
go
Missy,
straight up until about
Missy,
T plus
Mr.
10
Hiller,
seconds, at which
Miss
point
Sharon,
we'll start to shift
Billy Monic,
orientation
your Nate,
so Falcon
Jay
9
Oliver,
can
Chris,
start picking up
Mr. Sack.
sideways velocity.
Always a
But
pleasure
before
and
we get to
privilege to
that,
be with you
why
guys.
don't we check in on the status of
And
the
I
vehicle
hope to
for
see you
today's
guys later today, if not
We are
tonight.
currently just under T-minus 5 minutes and 30 seconds from liftoff, and Falcon 9 is now moving into the final stages of the countdown. We are currently waiting for the transporter erector, or TE, to retract, and that's that truss